Okay. So from wherever you are joining this session, welcome to this session. Uh, Today we have with us Professor Amit Arora, my good friend, batchmate from IIT. He did his PhD from Penn State University, and at present he is on sabbatical from IIT Gandhinagar. He is from Metallurgy Department. He is on sabbatical from IIT Gandhinagar, where he is associate professor, and at present he is a research assistant professor at University of North Texas. So welcome, Amit, and it is almost 10 o'clock in the night. He is at Texas. So thank you, Amit, for joining this session and taking out time.
Thanks, Siddharth, for this opportunity. We were planning to do it for quite long time, so finally it is happening now.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Amit, as of now, material science is becoming very, very important. Of course, whether it's electric vehicles or even, let's say, hardwares which are supporting so-called AI revolution, it is becoming very important. But almost 2 decades ago, I can say that may not have that kind of a prominence. So when you search for if you could just talk about that, what was your motivation to pursue maybe engineering? How did you land up with an engineering? And what are the activities which you're doing at present?
So, I, I mean, I would attribute my story into two parts. One is so similar to what usually Government of India does it with its budget. One is planned and another one is the unplanned. So the story started with the quite unplanned one. We were most of us when we were appearing for JEE, most of us didn't know what is metallurgy, to be honest. So if I say that I was planning to go for metallurgy, it would be a blatant lie because at that time the information was not enough around us. We didn't have enough people to look up to or talk to on what metallurgy was and all. So it was by chance I got metallurgy department and then uh, got into Kharagpur, did the bachelor's, master's, dual degree there, and then by the time I was in my fourth year, I got an kind of an offer opportunity where my master's thesis supervisor asked me if I would like to go for higher education. And again, by that time, I didn't know what is higher education and what do you do there. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, I come from a family background where my mother is a teacher, so I've seen teaching activities since childhood. So, one thing which I did come to know that if you do PhD, you can become a professor. Uh, I felt like that was quite an interesting avenue to explore. Uh, so I came to Penn State in US for PhD. I worked on a technology which was up and coming at that time. Uh, and then I performed my research activities, and then after my PhD, I joined at IIT Gandhinagar as a faculty, where I again continued my research. And so at IIT Gandhinagar, uh, for many people who might not know what an IIT Gandhinagar or IIT professor does, there are three activities which we usually do. One is the research, which involves thinking of new ideas, new products, new technology, working on it, researching it, guiding research students to do their research, preparing new generation of research students and researchers. The second is the teaching part where we teach undergraduate or graduate courses for BTech, MTech, PhD, all of that. And then the third one becomes the service part where we conduct workshops, seminars, public engagement. At the same time, also looking at the institutional administration is also one part of the service. So that's the three activities which we usually do as a faculty. And right now I'm at University of North Texas, where I am an assistant research professor. And here, primarily, my activities are conducting research and working with other research scholars to perform research in new ideas and new materials.
Okay. Okay, great. So, what is your area of research? Is this primarily around new materials, or it sees more a broader perspective?
So, it is primarily in the area of materials, but because in Kharagpur I did kind of uh, got hang of doing coding and writing programs. So now what I do is I use my skills in coding and the algorithmic brain to work on materials and manufacturing processes. So I do modeling and simulation work, and right now we are working on using artificial intelligence and machine learning into new materials discovery, identifying new materials, finding new materials, or finding new processes to work on materials.
Okay, great. Now, taking a step back, what was the process which you went through in terms of identifying a program as well as a particular country and a university outside India when you went for pursuing your higher studies?
So for me, it was a mixed kind of a search. So first thing which I was looking for is that I was interested in using computational simulation. So computational material science was a field in which I was interested. So I was looking at universities where research is done in this area significantly, primarily. And the second aspect which I was looking at is I wanted to have an international exposure. So that means that I wanted to work with people of different nationalities. I wanted to explore and understand different cultures and different nationalities, and that way uh, I had a few options where United States was one of the primary option which I was looking at, because here I had option of working with a lot of people from different countries, and at the same time it does have a research apparatus which works in multiple universities together. It works in terms of how different universities collaborate and work together. So that way US became my first priority. Second would have been Europe, but I was more interested in US in that way.
Now, if you have to give perspective about, let's say, you studied at a prominent engineering college, one of the best in India, and also studied in US. So what kind of perspective, what kind of differences did you observe in various aspects, whether it's, let's say, the support to research, the funding available, the faculty caliber, or maybe the environment in general? If you could maybe just give a kind of a comparison.
So I think the primary difference which I was looking at was the environment. So you have so at IIT, when I joined IIT Kharagpur, I think that year it was number one ranked in engineering colleges in India. But then the primary focus at that time, in my opinion, at IIT Kharagpur was the undergraduate education. So it did not have a huge focus on the research aspect. And so if I look at it now, things have changed a little bit, but still IITs are considered as primarily undergraduate education institution. Whereas when I moved to Penn State, the skills were totally different. At IIT Kharagpur, we were looking at a population of about 8 to 10,000 students at that time. Now it has increased again, but it was primarily 8 to 10,000 students, all engineering disciplines, maybe a little bit of, very little bit of humanities and social sciences, but otherwise mostly sciences and engineering. Whereas when I moved to Penn State was huge in comparison of IIT Kharagpur. It had a student strength of about 60,000 when I joined. It had departments ranging from humanities, social sciences, music, dance, performing arts, sciences, biology, engineering, whatnot. Everything which you can think of, it had a department on. So that way, there was a big difference in terms of who were the people around me. At the same time, also, when you look at IIT cultures, your students are coming from primarily India. We had some students who were from abroad, but they were again of Indian origin. Uh, and it was very, I think you would remember we had maybe about 10 or 15 of these something called DASA students. So that was all the diversity you could think of. Whereas Penn State, the it was completely different. You had students of uh, in my one of my fluid mechanics classes, I had the students maybe of about 18 or 20 nationalities in the
Wow.
same classroom. And I'm not even talking about like different classes. I'm just talking about one classroom. And my professor was from Iran. We had a few students. We had a class of about 40 to 50, and a majority of them were from different countries, not from US also. So that way, that cultural difference is, I think, a big deal. It does open you up into a very new, different world. It opens you up to new ideas. You work with different students. You see different thought processes about looking at a problem. We have been trained on HC Verma or Erodo looking at physics problems. Almost all of us look at these physics problems in the same way. But when you talk to somebody who is not from India, you see that they look at it from a slightly different point of view, and that helps a lot in terms of improving your understanding of different concepts and different ideas, and at the same time, it it improves you as a human being also. You get to understand how different cultures work, how different cultures think. So that was, I think that was one big difference in terms of research facilities. At Kharagpur, I didn't use too many research facilities, so I cannot comment on that. But Penn State definitely had much bigger research portfolio in terms of the kind of facilities which we had, kind of equipments which we had. Uh, so that way, yes, it was very different.
Okay. Wonderful. So, US has traditionally been a major, you can say, a destination which attracts a lot of students. But in recent time, Asia or Asian economies have been getting a lot of prominence. One of our batchmates, he is based in Singapore, now Malaysia. He was also faculty at Singapore. In case you could give some perspective that in case, let's say, candidates have to maybe choose between US and Asia, how maybe the scope has been changing and any perspective if could give.
So, I think the major difference comes in where do you see yourself settling? So, would you like to settle in a certain country? If that is the case, then you get education in that country, because uh, the way immigration system works in most of the countries, if you have a degree from that country, it helps. So if
Okay.
you are thinking of, let's say, if you're thinking of settling in France, or in Germany, then it might help if you get a degree from Germany or France. If you're thinking of moving to Canada, the again Canadian immigration system gives a lot of importance if you have a degree from Canada. If you're thinking of moving to Singapore, Malaysia, something like that, if you have a degree from there, or if you have a degree from, let's say, if you have a degree from NUS or NTU, which is in Singapore, you would gain a lot of access to the Southeast Asian countries. If you want to move to Japan, let's say, having a degree from Japan would be extremely helpful. I mean, I cannot even think of moving to Japan without having a degree or a strong collaboration in Japan, even if I have a degree from US. So the primary, I think, consideration should be where do you want to settle down. That would be the primary objective. I think in the objective function that would have the major contribution. The remaining part would be where do you see more research happening in the area where you want to work. Let's say you want to work in the area of electric vehicles or battery materials. You can see there are plenty of resources available online where you can look up which research groups work in the area of battery technology or battery materials. Depending upon which country you find, then you can identify the research group where you want to work with, and you can select that place. So, um I think primarily the decision making comes from the idea that where do you want to settle down, and then if you want to go back to India after your degree, then my priority order would be US, Europe. Then maybe Southeast Asia in terms of maybe Singapore uh, and Japan. These are some of the places which I can think of the back of my head. But I mean, again, it depends. It greatly depends on which field you are working on or what you want to do, because there are
Sure.
sometimes very strong groups which are working in a certain area in one country where in other countries you might not find people strongly affiliated to that area.
Sure, sure. So, drawing from your experiences, the process which you adopted of landing up with an opportunity, academic opportunity with university outside India, and what you have seen over the years, which are the maybe let's say areas where students should work on so that they could increase their chances of selections, whether it is academics, whether it is maybe let's say the research output, whether it is other kind of activities, so that their selection chances increases in a particular university, maybe with the context of US and other places in case in general if you should get some advice.
So the first advice which I would give, and it's a very selfish advice if you can think of, but uh, first advice which I would give is that select material science or select materials engineering department as your choice of branch. And it is very easy if you have good rank. Right now, the way things are going, people don't know much about material science, and so material science and engineering usually opens at much lower rank. And that means that if you have a reasonably good rank, you would be able to get into a material science program in one of the best IITs you want. Once you do that, then you need to work on you if you have interest in research, then you have to work on at least one research project.
Okay.
Find a faculty who works in your area of interest. So if you say, let's say, and I will list down a few areas in material science also, but basically find a faculty person who works in your area of interest, go and work with them. So for the first thing which they would ask you is go and uh, spend some time in the lab, learn what happens in the lab, learn the lab procedures. If you are working on some experimental part, they'll ask you to get trained on some of the equipment, some of the technology. If they are working on simulation, they'll ask you to learn some of the softwares or some programming or some do some numerical methods courses. And once you do that, then you will be involved into a research project. Once you get into a research project, it is very, very important to communicate that research project also. So that means that you have to write a research paper. Uh, if you get a research paper published while you are doing your undergraduate, your graduate program admission is a cakewalk.
Okay.
So if you do reasonably okay research, work with somebody and get a research paper out, you would get admission into most of the good universities in, be it US, be it Europe, anywhere.
Okay.
In terms of the research areas in material science, some of the hot areas which I can name right now. One is you have the electronic materials, so that means it works in the area of you are working in the area of chip design, you're working in the area of designing new materials for electronic properties, magnetic properties, magnetic materials. So magnetic materials would go into storage devices and all. This is a hot area. You work in that, and it's amazing. Second comes maybe the biomaterials, where you work on biologically related materials. It can be a biological device, or it can be a biological implant or something. So you have that. Then you have something called nanomaterials. Now, there has been a lot of uh, talk about nanomaterials, but not many people really understand nanomaterials. So if you understand nanomaterials well, that would open up a whole lot of options for you. Uh, then you have the battery materials. So you have materials which work in the area of energy storage or energy transformation. Again, a lot of options, opportunities in that area. And then good old manufacturing, where I work in. You have design of metals, design of alloys, and then you have the manufacturing of alloys. So additive manufacturing, where in the area in which I work, that's kind of one of the hottest area right now. And additive manufacturing, or 3D printing, which we call, of metals, is something which
Mhm.
is really, really hot. So if you work in that area, that's something which uh, is definitely going to get you noticed in the world. Now, about the process of kind of going for the admissions. If you are looking for US, usually US universities give admissions if there is a faculty who is ready to pay for your tuition. So if there is somebody who has a research project and they're looking for a student, and if you're a good fit, you would get the admission. There are formalities like a GRE, a TOEFL, and all. These are more of formalities. You get the basic right, and you would be able to clear these exams easily. For Europe, usually there will be fellowships which you will have to apply. So, like for Germany, there is DART fellowship, or there is European scholarship program where you apply. So you will have to apply for these scholarships, and once you get the scholarship, then you can get the admission to the universities. There are also universities where they offer admission based on the research projects which faculty have, but mostly these are scholarships which you're looking at. Similarly, is for Singapore, you have sometimes faculty supporting your education, or you apply for a scholarship. Japan has very similar structure. You have to apply for Japanese scholarships to go there and study. So that way, that is how it works.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you for very comprehensively trying to cover different reasons and different avenues available. And now, other than academics, other than maybe let's say the academic activity, in case you have to suggest what other activities students when they are in different country, different geography they should engage in order to make most out of the international experiences.
So I think I cannot emphasize enough on this part, because this part usually get a backseat for most of us Indian students, because since childhood we have been told study, 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 don't go out, don't play, don't make friends, just study, 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 score well in exams, and just keep doing that. Uh, that is not how rest of the world works. Uh, so if you're going to a different country, uh, get involved in volunteering activities. Like go and find a non-profit which works in your area or your area of interest. Work with them, volunteer with them, make friends, work with different communities, different cultures, and learn from them, kind of understand their culture. Uh, the same thing when you're into a classroom, don't just sit and do your project with another Indian student. Find a student from another culture, work with them, see how they work, and make friends. So that's something which is very, very important. When I was in at Penn State, I worked with, I think, three different groups. We did a whole lot of volunteering activities, starting from organizing festivals, organizing welcome events, running a whole lot of charity events, organizing dance performances, organizing concerts, uh, selling hot dogs to make money for non-profit projects, and also I think in my 5 years of PhD, I did not uh, uh, miss out on any opportunity to do volunteer work. And so that's something which is very, very greatly appreciated. And that's actually, so some people might think that, oh, it will kind of take my time away from my great research which I would be doing. But I can tell you that almost all the applications which you do internationally, they look at your volunteering work, they look at your non-profit work, they look at how you have been working other than your lab and other than your classroom. So even in my interview at IIT Gandhinagar, I was asked like what was the volunteering work which I was doing, and our director who was sitting in my interview, he kind of pointedly asked me that you have mentioned something about doing a volunteer work for this organization. What was the work you were doing, and what was your experience and all that? So that way I did kind of benefit from the volunteering work which I did. But yeah, I mean, that's something which I would strongly, strongly suggest. And other than that, I mean, learn new cultures, eat different kind of foods, learn to cook, uh, organizing events, organizing meeting with people, kind of getting your interpersonal skills better than what you have, since you have been just doing study, study, study. So that's something which I strongly suggest.
Sure, sure. So we are at the end of the session. Thank you, Amit, for taking out time and very comprehensively giving your feedback, your inputs, spanning over, I would say, several years. And I'm quite sure those who attended this session and subsequently would watch the recordings would greatly benefit. So thank you all who joined this session from wherever you joined. So thank you,
Thank
Amit.
you for the opportunity, and I hope I was helpful to some people around. If there are any other questions anybody has later on, they can either contact you, or my email address is available publicly on my website, on IIT Gandhinagar website, on UNT website. So they can write me, and I would be happy to answer any questions which are there. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit, for that kind offer. I'm sure some students might reach out. So, and I would say I think you had a very long day. So good night from India.
Thank you.
Okay, Amit, take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.